Hello everyone. This is Show here. Now, this took me a minute trying to figure out, but I actually just figured it out instantly. If you guys remember how I removed Ayama from my what ifs, that is going to be a key role in this. Now, I'm gonna switch around Ida and the person I'm gonna replace Ayama with, which is that boy from 1B who has the redirection quirk. Shoda, or yeah. You have Showtao, which is Todoroki, and then Showdown. Okay, that works. Now, I might get those names confused. Anyways, let us begin. Monoma is talking about how Class 1B, not all of them made it, but basically it's half of these people, or a fourth of these people, are in the third part, and he's going over it. Deku immediately just turns his head, he puts up his hand, and he just flicks his finger. Now, everyone, when they saw that, are confused, and those in 1B are even more in shock, as Monma immediately just got knocked back into his chair, passing out. Which is whenever he would immediately just lower his hand down back to his side. Which everyone is confused by, and they're asking if he can even do that. Which is whenever Deku would just laugh, saying, "I did not lay a finger on that boy." Now, this is whenever Shinso, he would realize that he could literally just do that to him. So what's stopping him? As he would begin trying to intimidate Deku. Deku would immediately just turn his head back into him and just start walking towards him, not saying a single word. Now, the reason he's not saying a single word is because even though he is the strongest, he literally... Well, the guy with the tail quirk seated as Deku saving their lives. So let's say that he respects Deku's strength because he can back it up. But he also sees it as a bit of a weakness. So he at least told him just not to say a word to that boy. That physical pain is essentially... Physical pain or something to snap you out of it is what actually got him to snap out of it. As Deku would just open his mouth talking to him. Which is when Ojiro would immediately call Deku an idiot. As Deku is essentially just having a one-sided conversation. Shinso is confused on how Deku's quirk is essentially negating his own. And here's a little loophole I want to throw in. Deku responded to Shinso's quirk. Which basically means that he responded to Shinso, but if Deku just goes off on a rant on a whole one-sided conversation, that can be a loophole through Shinso's quirk. Essentially talking like he's not there. Like he truly believes he's not there. As Shinso would just walk out of the rink. As Deku's standing in front of him and he's looking him directly in the face, saying that his little quirk won't work on him. Now, why did I do that? Well, because it just makes Deku seem more badass. Now, Todoroki versus Sero, one-sided. Ibarra wins. The guy with, or Shota, with the essentially full counter, goes up against Mei. She would have immediately rushed in, trying to at least pull him or do something to get him out of the ring, because she was hoping to get paired up with that engine guy. But that didn't work. So, this is what's happening. She would have immediately tried to at least run into him or push him out of the ring. But as soon as he touched her, she got flown backwards, actually flying out of the ring. Ida versus Mina. I don't think Ida actually throws punches. I don't think I've ever seen Ida actually. In the sports festival, he pushed Ibarra out. Has he ever thrown a solid punch? Okay, I'm gonna have to find that later because I truly do not remember. Now, Ida versus Mina. Mina, I want to say she would actually be able to throw acid into Ida's engines, either slowing him down or actually getting his engines to stall, so she would be able to win. Especially because she can just turn the entire ring into goo, making it harder for Ida to get traction, actually falling into it. Now, Todoroki versus Momo. I realized I did not bring in. I did not bring in Kendo. Momo versus Kendo, let's say. Because Tokoyami, I feel like that's wasted on a battle against him and Bakugo, so let's just do this. Momo versus Kendo. Kendo would actually be able to win, because with Deku's training, she's actually able to actually increase the size of her hands a bit more. And if not, she feels like she can stretch her hands out more, actually getting a bit more distance. Now, she would actually be able to just grab Momo and just throw her out of the ring or just slap her out of the ring. Whichever one would be funnier to see animated. Anyways. After that, Kirishima versus Tetsu. Kirishima would lose. If you guys are wondering why, breaking through these two's quirk essentially makes it stronger. And during that schoolyard fight with 3 people from 1B, Deku actually broke through Tetsu's quirk, essentially making him a bit stronger, basically like a Zenkai boost. So he would actually win, which Momo would cheer on if he was conscious. Now, Uraka versus Bakugo. Bakugo just uses Black Whip, and he immediately just goes. He extends his hand out, actually getting her and wrapping her up, and just sliding her out of the ring. Which is what people are confused by, as Bakugo would have just said that he would have fought her with more of his power, or more his other quirks, but if he were to do so, she probably wouldn't survive. Or she would be very well injured, which she would not understand. Now, Deku versus Todoroki. This fight is going to be fun. Deku walks into the ring, and he looks up to the sky and he just puts his hands out, actually just looking upwards as Todoroki walks into the ring. Now, Deku's actually looking, and he sees Todoroki. He's asking Todoroki, "Are you ready to give up now? 'Cause I will give you 2 options. Fight me or lose, or give up, and the arena stays intact." Todoroki would immediately look at Deku, saying that that's not going to be a good idea, is it? You forgot a third option, as he would immediately hear "go" and fire ice at Deku. Deku would have immediately just put his hand up, punching through it effortlessly, just sending the direction back at Todoroki, which actually catches him off guard, as he would immediately put up a wall of ice behind him, actually bigger than in canon. Now, Deku's telling Todoroki that was just a warm-up jab. Come on. As Todoroki would just keep barreling ice toward Deku. Now, as soon as this happens, Deku's telling Todoroki that he needs to use the other side of his. He doesn't care what he says, just do it. You're not going to win. Todoroki would just say no, and Deku would just say, "As you wish then," as he would immediately create a cruel sun in his finger, throwing it directly at Todoroki. As Todoroki would go to dodge, he'd try... Sorry about that, guys. Recording cut. Anyways, as Todoroki went to dodge, he would have actually put up his fire sight trying to blast it. Now, as soon as he realizes he has his hand up, he would have tried going out with his other hand, but he would have been hit square in the chest, actually burning him up quite a bit, as he would fall over and try standing up again, as he's realizing just how intense Deku's heat actually is. Deku would just be laughing at Todoroki saying, "Come on, that was just a baby jab. Come on now. Get back up and we'll have a proper fight." Which is whenever Deku would see Todoroki struggle to stand up, and he's actually getting pissed off, igniting his fire side. Deku would just smirk, stating that, "Oh, finally. You have finally decided to show that power, Todoroki. Now, use your power against mine. Let us see who will prevail." As President Mike is asking Aizawa if he thinks the ring will last doing this. Aizawa would just say that, "No, but that is why we called in her." As Merlin would walk into the stadium, she would immediately put her hands up, actually just saying a few simple words. Or she would lift up one of her hands, actually revealing a device. Now, as soon as she presses it, this is whenever an entire barrier gets formed around the ring, as 4 pylons would come out of the ground. Now, Deku's actually looking at this and he's asking what this is supposed to be. Merlin would just say that this is her latest technology. In fact, she used it making her quirk. Which is when the title cards would come up saying, "Merlin, quirk, infinite upgrade." She can take a piece of technology and upgrade it to the point where you believe it's magical, but she basically just upgrades the tech. Like if she were to upgrade a computer, she can make it faster, the battery life longer, or anything like that. And I just realized I'm into phone. She can make your storage longer. She can literally upgrade anything you want. Like, she's even upgraded her body. So basically, she's physically strong, physically capable, and she actually has increased senses. Now, essentially, she's used as a support hero because of what she can do. She creates high-tech hero gear. In fact, she's also been used to even help heal All Might, which is where that plot point I made in episode 1 or 2 comes into play. She's helped study and actually create medical tech that has made leaps and bounds throughout the years. Now, Deku would immediately look at these, saying so that means he can hold back, or at least let loose more of his power. As Todoroki would go eyes wide as he realizes Deku's actually just playing around with him. Merlin would just say that she doesn't care, do what he wants. As Deku would immediately buff up more, actually creating a giant cruel sun, as Todoroki would just try blowing as much ice and fire towards Deku as he can, and knocking him out. Essentially, there would be a giant explosion as the pylons, one of them would malfunction, which would actually surprise Merlin. Now, after this happened, not Bakugo, Todoroki would be found outside the ring as Deku's still standing there. Now then, let's see. Ibarra versus this redirection guy, or this full counter guy. I don't know if he can redirect the vines back at her, but let's say he can. Yeah, let's say he can. He would redirect the vines back at her, actually making her wrap herself up, but it would just take her a second to actually try and get herself unwrapped. But he would have tried taking this time to actually push her out of the ring, which I want to say he can probably successfully do, because he can just make the vines go further and further. Actually, he could probably make the vines go 7 times. Yeah. He made the vines go up to like 7 times the distance that they were away from each other, so he almost made her fly out of the ring. Well, fly out of the arena. Anyways, Mina versus Kendo. Kendo, she would actually, yeah, she would win. No. Tetsu versus Bakugo. Tetsu would rush Bakugo, and Bakugo would actually give him the time of day, as he would immediately ignite explosions in his hand, and he would actually blast one straight at Tetsu. Now, everyone is surprised because these explosions are around the size of the ones he did during Uraka's meteor shower attack. And he's just blowing these over and over again at Tetsu, which actually surprises people, as Tetsu would actually go flying out of the ring and be embedded in the wall. Now, he would then walk out of the ring as people realize that giving that girl the time of day, or at least making the battle as painless for her, was actually something he did out of courtesy. Now, Deku versus this full counter kid. Deku would walk into the stage, and he's saying that he's glad he got this far. He's the only person who actually managed to put even a scratch on Deku. Besides that thing back at the USJ. Now, sorry guys, I literally woke up like 2 hours ago and I've been spending most of my time cleaning. Now, Deku, he would immediately just watch this kid rush toward him, as Deku would just send a flick toward his forehead. As soon as he makes a flick, this kid would immediately put up his arms, and he would have actually been able to send the blast directly back at Deku. He would have hit Deku in the chest, but Deku would not have moved a single bit, as he would actually just create a cruel sun actually firing it at him, because he wants to see what happens. The guy would immediately just redirect it back at Deku, at 7 times the size. Deku would be thinking, it was bigger, so what happens if as he would immediately create a giant cruel sun in his finger, as the kid realizes that this guy is going to blow up the entire stadium, as Deku would send it flying, this guy would send it back at Deku. As soon as he sends it back at Deku, Deku would have immediately put his hand out, grabbing it, and just forcing it back at the guy, with a single push. Which, as soon as the guy goes to actually redirect it, the heat he's feeling would have actually somewhat scorched his arm, as he would bring it backwards, and he'd be blasted out of the ring with it. Now then, let's see. Kendo versus Bakugo. Y'all already know how this would go. Bakugo has 3 quirks. He would actually win a lot faster. Now, I believe I said he was at 50%, but let's crank that up to... I said he was at 55% to 50%, so let's crank that up to 60. So that would mean that he's up to 85 to 80%. Now then, he's at 60% in canon, or 60% in this timeline, and 85% in canon. Now, after this happened, Bakugo, he would actually walk into the ring, and he's actually very nervous, as Deku would walk in also. He would say that he's finally glad that he finally has to face someone, but that one boy was interesting. He's the only one who's put a scratch on me. You haven't even done that, haven't you, Bakugo? As Bakugo would immediately rush toward Deku. He would be powered up at 85%, and he's actually fighting at Deku. As soon as he would throw a punch, Deku would have actually put his hand up to block it. And he would have actually shrunk back down to his base form. Or, what I mean his base form is that he would have turned off his quirk, but he's still using Sunshine. That does not make sense. He would have turned off his quirk so he's not in this big bulky mode, but he would have turned it on so he can just use Sunshine. As he's fighting Bakugo, Bakugo's telling him to get serious. Deku would say he will when he does. As Bakugo would crank himself up to about Let's see, 85% in canon. So I said 65% in this timeline. I would crank him up to 85, but let's crank him up to 75. No, I said 75 in canon. 85%. I'm trying to figure out the numbers here. 60%. So let's crank him up to 70 or around 75, which would be about 100% in canon. So he's actually blowing around and actually doing all its force all might can, along with making explosions, as Deku would actually get more serious throughout the fight, actually being impressed. As it would get to the point where Bakugo's people would just see this giant hulking mass of muscle, swinging around punches and just trying to swat away a fly, basically, as Bakugo's actually wrapping up tendrils. He would be trying to wrap Deku and restrain him in tendrils as he's throwing explosions and actually using full cowling. Now, he would have actually been able to get above Deku, as he would have immediately put as much of full cowling as he had into his arms, and he would have actually blown away most of the arena with his blast. Actually making it to where Deku, he is actually blocking, which Deku would immediately pull his hands away, looking at them, seeing a bit of a mark. As soon as he looks away from his hands, he starts smirking at Bakugo. As Bakugo realizes, Deku now sees him as a serious threat, which he's happy and glad for, but he completely regrets this decision, as Deku would immediately lunge towards him, grabbing Bakugo by the face, actually smashing him back down into the tournament arena. Now, as soon as this happens, Deku would immediately start walking away from Bakugo. As Bakugo, he's dizzy, he can't see, he's pretty sure he broke something in his face. He's getting back up, and he actually tries using Black Whip. Now, as soon as he would have actually gone to use it, he immediately just starts powering up more and more as he would reach 100. And I am doing something different for this what if. Bakugo would have immediately just lashed out with Black Whip, and as soon as he does so, he would have grabbed Deku by the arm. Deku would have grabbed the whip, and he would have immediately yanked Bakugo towards him. But as soon as he yanked Bakugo, Bakugo powers up his arm as much as he can and throws a punch at Deku. As soon as he did this, Deku would have actually countered with his own fist, actually making the arena, everyone in the arena just fly backwards, and every single person in the city could hear this sound. Boom! Now then, as everyone's confused by that sound, this is whenever Deku, he would be looking down at his hand, and one of his knuckles are actually bleeding, which he actually is curious by. Now then, Deku would immediately look back towards Bakugo, and Bakugo's got a broken arm. Now, he would immediately put his hand over it, and as soon as he does this, his arm would heal, which confuses Deku more. Now, for those of you who read the manga, you know what that is. For those of you who don't, Nana Shimura's quirk is restoration, or restoring. Basically, she can bring back. It's the complete opposite of Shigaraki's decay. Now, as soon as Bakugo would have seen his arm heal, he would realize that he actually did it perfectly. That his arm doesn't even feel like when he broke it the first time. So he would immediately look at this, smirk, as he would power up to about 120% of full cowling, immediately rushing toward Deku. He's basically overloading his body, and he's fighting with Deku, and as he would actually try going beyond that. He would immediately go to 1,000,000%, throwing a punch at Deku, and Deku is actually holding his ground, holding him back. As soon as he would start feeling the arena crumble behind him, he would have actually tried pushing through it, as him and Bakugo are struggling for power at this point. As Deku can hold on to this form, he would immediately start throwing more power towards it, as he would power up into the 1 mode for about 30 seconds. If not, at least 1 or 2 seconds, actually being able to hold ground with Bakugo. as this is the first time he has been pushed back. Now, as soon as that happens, people are watching, and everyone in 1A is astounded that Bakugo is actually throwing power back toward Deku. Now, as soon as that happens, Deku would have actually been able to force Bakugo backwards, and Bakugo's body would finally give out due to the strain he's put on it. As one thing Bakugo does before he passes out is he tries using the quirk again, which he restores his body as he would pass out. Now, that is where I'm going to be leaving this part off, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and this is the first time I have actually brought in another quirk from One For All. And if you guys are wondering why I brought in Nana's quirk, I've been watching some videos on the manga, and essentially I found out what her quirk was. I really hope that that's actually what her quirk is, because if it's not, I'm going to sound silly. Let me look it up real quick. Okay. So I've been looking into it, and from just poking around on YouTube a bit and looking online, there's a bunch of different things going around. People are saying Nana had the original decay quirk, and whenever One For All... No, I messed that up again. That's twice. Whenever All For One killed her, he took her quirk and gave it to Shigaraki. There's that theory. There's Nana's quirk was a restoration quirk, which I'm doing. Basically means that anything she touches she can restore or repair to its original state. Or even she had another decay quirk, which is why she always wore those big thick gloves. And every single time anyone sees her. Now, personally, I think that her quirk being a restoration quirk, basically your quirk can be similar to your family members and all that. That's something that's underrated, so I feel like that would be the case. Her quirk is the opposite of Shigaraki's. So I want to do that for this. Even if that gets stated to not be true, I believe that it should still be a good case. Now, because of that is how this timeline is going to change even more from the mainstream canon then. So if people don't like that, just know this helps make my Sunshine more diverse and away from other people's content. Also, it basically allows Bakugo to fight with Deku. Now, Bakugo didn't fully restore his body, but he was able to pull himself mostly away from the damage Deku has done to his body with One For All at 1,000,000%. Now, Bakugo would actually find himself awake, and as soon as he goes to move, Recovery Girl tells him to not move because whatever he did to his body, basically he fixed it, but he didn't fix it all the way. As he would now be recovering, and he'd be told that, well, he'd basically go out there and he'd be walking with a cane, and he would have had some vitamins that she would have gave him, and she would have also healed him more. But he's now got a big stamina drain, a new quirk, and this is whenever Deku, he would see Bakugo, and as soon as he sees Bakugo would actually get up onto the second place pillar, and All Might would come to arrive and actually give out the medals. As soon as All Might gives out the medals, he congratulates Deku and shakes his hand. Now, Deku's actually looking at All Might, and these two are both standing, basically face to face with each other. And everyone's looking at this, thinking that that kid is crazy. Now, Merlin would immediately begin smirking, saying that he is also very interesting, in that basically he's the first person to ever break her tech. Now, she would actually send out an internship invite, but she would have to ask the people in charge of the place she works at, which they already planned to actually, so she doesn't even need to bother now. Now then, Deku, as soon as Bakugo would get his medal, Deku would actually turn to Bakugo, actually holding out his hand. Now, as soon as he does this, Bakugo is confused, as Deku would say that he has gotten stronger, even more so than he even thought possible. So, he must congratulate him. You actually pushed me into the one for a good 30 seconds. Or he would have said, you actually pushed me into the one for a short amount of time. But he knows that it was only 5 seconds. Which Bakugo would actually say, thanks, as he would shake Deku's hand. And Deku would have actually pulled him back up onto the first place pillar. Essentially, this would basically show that even though he won, he sees it as more people won than self-growth. Which is actually something humble. Which is probably going to be the only humble thing he does in the series. Now, Deku would immediately tell Bakugo that he needs to work on that quirk then. Bakugo would ask what he means, and Deku would have stated, the moment after we broke apart, your body looked in pieces, but you put it back together before dropping down, or dropping to the ground. So, work on it, and you might get that rematch sooner than later. As Deku would walk out of the stadium. Now, if decay or basically restoration isn't Nana's actual quirk, I will be keeping it because it helps me basically diverse the story more, with giving Deku a proper, well, not rival, but basically someone he might be able to fight against, like Meliodas. Meliodas can use that demon form, but he can only use it for, I believe, a certain point before his mind starts to tear itself apart. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and one thing I forgot to say, no one has been able to guess the soda that I drank, and I still have some of it, because I actually have a 12-pack of it. I already put in my Discord what it was, and I would say it, but I would probably get copyrighted. So, that contest is over. So, I will probably be doing a drawing, or... No, I'm actually just going to do a drawing, but someone actually gave me a what if, and I put it on the list. Now, it is... okay, I have to work tomorrow, and after that, I'm actually going to be trying to watch some of the animes people have recommended me to watch for what ifs. Now then, I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I will actually be looking into Nana Shimura and actually trying to find out what her actual quirk is. So I will be doing that for the next hour or two. So doing that, I will also tell you guys that I'm going to be switching around the force training arc and the final exam to help things make more sense. Now then, have an amazing day, guys, and I hope you enjoyed the video.